So in East Palestine, Ohio, this past week, there was a freight train derailment. Now, a freight train derailment is not necessarily anything new. However, this one was quite interesting because it was full of an incredibly harmful chemical. And it exploded when the train derailed. And not only did it explode, officials then came in to perform a controlled release of the chemical. And so they told everyone to evacuate the area. And when you look at video of the controlled release, you can see that there's a fire cloud over 100 feet into the air. And so now people are terrified to go back to their homes because why would you want to live near where there was a 100-foot fire plume when a chemical that you don't know anything about and its ability or inability to harm you, we've now displaced all these individuals. And by the way, we have to do a root cause analysis to see why did the train derail, right? So as reporting has gone on, you've started to see that there weren't a ton of people who were operating the freight train, right? And we know that this is common because when the rail strike was about to happen, they were talking about, hey, we only have 2 people per train. We're asking for 4 people per train, right? And the rail lines wanted to cut it down to 1 person per train. More interesting than that, you find out that this train was not regulated as hazardous, which makes you raise an eyebrow. Why would a train that's carrying something so dangerous that a mere derailment causes an explosion, and when you release the rest of the chemical, it forms a fire cloud, a cloud literally made of fire at 100 feet tall? That's something I introduced to my players in fantasy role playing to make them afraid of something. This should not be happening in real life, okay? So, it's not being regulated, it's dangerous, not to mention that our rail infrastructure is incredibly old. Some of these rail lines haven't been updated in 100 years. We find out that the brakes on some of these trains are relying on technology that's over 100 years old. Now, that might not necessarily be the problem, but it does appear that in all of these major freight derailments, you are using this exact same technology that essentially makes it super difficult for a train to stop in a way that preserves whatever is going that is being carried by the train. So trains like this, there's actually a name for them. They're called bomb trains. And what effectively happens with them is, best case scenario, nothing happens with them, right? But they're essentially bombs on the rails. So if they go off track, or if something happens to them, or if they get attacked or overheat, or they're going through a dangerous area or whatever, there's a literal explosive on the tracks. And it's not just chemicals, right? It's oil, it's natural gas, all these things. So look, we have dangerous things in the world and they need to be transported places. Okay, we all get that. But we have to have the infrastructure and the regulation and the technology available to actually make it safer for people, because tons of people live around or near rail lines. I live near one. I lived near one when I was a kid. Rail, although it doesn't receive the investment that it deserves, it's still a really important part of the economy. And when we learned about the rail strike, we learned that they're moving $2 billion of freight a day. That is an incredible amount of the U.S. economy that still sits on the rails. And if we're relying on trains so much, shouldn't they be safe, right? Shouldn't we, because we can't move the rail tracks oftentimes, and we can't move the communities who've grown up next to them, wouldn't it be better if we just built better trains or repaired the rail lines? But that would cost money. And unfortunately, the rail lines are not nationalized. We, as a people of this country, don't own them. And so we're relying on private corporations who have lobbyists and who buy politicians to regulate themselves, to implement the new technologies, to buy better trains, to pay for the investments that are necessary. And they're just not going to do it, guys. A corporation has literally only one job: make more money, right? Make more money than you did last quarter, and the quarter before that, and the quarter before that. And if you can't do that as a CEO, guess what? You're getting sacked. Sorry. So all the incentives are in the worst places possible. And so what happens? Well, there are only two ways to make more money in a capitalist system: increase price of services or decrease costs, right? You got to you either bring in more revenue or you cut the amount of money leaving the organization. And so what ends up happening? They cut corners, hopefully not literally, but they go out and they don't do the best that they can, or they skimp in places where they think no one will notice. And then this kind of stuff happens. We have destroyed an entire town with this event. I don't know if anyone will ever come back to East Palestine, Ohio. That town may be effectively dead from now until forever, or as long as it takes for the government to say that there's no more traces of this chemical in the air and in the ground and wherever else. But we need to do preventative care for our railways. We cannot wait for these terrible tragedies to happen. And again, I don't know how many people have been, I don't know how many people who have been killed or harmed from the derailment, but we cannot wait for these terrible accidents to occur to realize, oh, wait, maybe we should have done something about our railway infrastructure. And by the way, last thing I want to say here is the workers have been warning us, not the American people, but the regulators and the train companies about this for a long time. Guys, the workers are the closest people to the things that are going on with their industry. If they tell you something's wrong, believe them, right? It's not difficult. Management, I get it. They don't want to do anything that would cut into their precious profits. But listen to your workers, protect your workers, okay? And the government, you guys need to come in and do something here too. We should not be relying on private corporations to do literally any of this. We should have strong regulations. Those regulations should be enforced with heavy fines or jail time for executives. And we should start to move to a posture where transporting things over the rails, and we do so much of it, is safe for hazardous chemicals and for mundane items. Look, the truth is we're going to have to transport dangerous things. I don't like it. I wish we didn't have to. But most of the time, stuff's got to move, and it's going to move on the rails. They should at least be safe for the workers, for the community, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this video from Let Them Eat Bread. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Twitch and on Facebook, where announcements about our page are kept. We make videos every week, and you can find all of our videos at youtube.com/LetThemEatBread. Thanks again, and see you next time.